Hello. Well, Stefan had already said it. For 30 years in digital business, I was just wondering why I'm on this panel, because there is this term of the digital natives who are born after 1980, and I'm born in 1964, and per definition I should have be a digital immigrant, because all the people born before 1970 are digital immigrants. Well, I learned something this morning, 300 years before 1997, where was my first encounter exactly where was Leibniz invented the binary system. And my first encounter with these binary systems and computers were in 1979 in high school. I was a 15-year-old guy. And we get access to our computer lab in this small town in southern Germany where I grew up. This was this computer here. It was a 1500. You programmed it with some paper cards where you marked bytes with pencil. And when you got in all these cards, the program was into the computer. And the first program I wrote after some exercises was, this is example for these cards, was Mastermind. And that was what it was able to play with this computer. What I learned in that time is that computers are great toys and we don't have to be afraid of them. So everybody has to discover a little bit of geek in yourself, and you have to let him out and to play with his things. And what I also learned, never stop learning, because there was such a fast development over the next years with computers were coming up. So you learned all the time, you never stopped to learn it. 1985, there was another big step in my life. I started to study fine arts. Started my bohem. I told that I started studying here in Kassel, in Germany, at the Academy of Fine Arts, and where happened some interesting things. One interesting thing was that I found that the students at the academy were two kinds of students. There are one kind of students who are talking all the time about projects they want to do when they get access to one or that workroom in the cafeteria we are talking about, where other students were working all the time, where we were very inspired. And I had a big chance to get together with a group of guys who did a lot of things. And I started with experimental photography. I worked with concentrated light. Did you see 64 holes? So we tried a lot to stress how we can work with photography in other ways. In a certain time, I've seen another class which was called Neues Aquarell, means new watercolor, and ornamental video. I thought that sounds good, and I joined this other class because I wanted to start paintings, but I didn't have had the money for these expensive colors. So I started make paintings with waste oil, which has a very long history in its material, oil from cars. And you get out nice pictures from it, like this one. So that was one of the projects I did. Interesting is they never finish these pictures because they're all the time moving on after you've produced it. They still live. For earning money in that time, I did every year one of my biggest drawings, because every year I worked as a street sign marker, and I did as one person every year the whole production plant of Daimler Benz in Stuttgart, with all the parking lots, all the streets, all these white stripes. I did every year. I did it for 2 months, the whole summer. I earned my life in that time, and I did my biggest paintings in that time. And that influences also the kind how I did my drawings. So I make the drawings with machines. It's a little bit like barcodes on speed, something like that, big drawings with a machine. And well, in that time, when the studies were finished, I continued with street market shop every year. So I get the money to buy colors, and I was presented by a gallery here in Berlin. I did an exhibition here. It was a picture where you can go through. But after that, I changed at a certain time. So what I learned in that time is it's very important, and there's another gene, get going and keep on, that you need discipline and passion to get better and better and to really work out the best of what you are doing. And I learned also that inspiration can come from everywhere. You can use every material as a medium. You can develop new techniques. You just have to try it. And innovation is an experiment with unknown outcomes, and you should never stop it. That was some very big influence from that time that I try to keep until now. Well, at a certain time, 1987, it was still in the studio. There was the Documenta 8. It's a very big modern art exhibition. It's every 5 years in Kassel. Because I was in one of the video classes, me and a fellow student, we get a job at the Documenta, and where I sold my first digital product. We did the videotape of a Documenta where we have a task to change the video cassettes all the time because there are 3 screens, about 60 or 70 videos of artists, and we have to show to the audience the videos. What happens, it was a very nice videotape, it was here in the backyard of a Museum Fritzanum. The people come in, where all the videos, and every 10 seconds another people come to our table and ask us, which video is that, how long does it run, who did that one, when comes the next video. And it was not very funny, so what we did, we go in the next computer store, we bought this kind of Commodore 64 computer equipment, a book how to program it, and we came up after a few days with the first version of the electronic program guide that showed on what screen which video is running at the moment. And we improved it over the time and the time, over 100 days, but in a certain time you can also see how long it's already running, a lot of new features. And we come up with that to the management of Documenta, and we sold that product to them. It looks a little bit like this one. I don't have a screenshot, but what changed the audience was very, they come in and they really changed. They are no more embarrassed about the situation because they're well informed. And what I learned in that time is that with digital is a perfect mean to for a service design, to create services that makes people's life easier, more fun, that bring some value into a situation. And I also learned you have to manage your audience, which was something very important. That is also something very important for brands today. 1998, I was still studying, but I felt I have to change something, and it was in the air, the wind of change. What I did, I stopped studying for 1 year, took my backpack, and started traveling around the world. This is one of the pictures. This is in the street of Malacca. One day after I was on a pirate boat that was almost sunk. And that was a very inspiring time because it was not at all digital in that time. It was to be confronted with a lot of new cultures, peoples, with the learning that all the things can be done in a completely other way that we have learned before. It was mostly in Asia, and there was so much difference. I was living in the jungle with monkeys and all so stuff. It was incredible and gave me a lot of power where I'm really happy that I had the chance to do that. But what I missed in that time, because at the same time there was also a lot of exciting things going in Germany, and I didn't see it. I see it only on the TV. Well, what I learned in that time, respect human nature is a very, very important value that you have to build in your DNA. Be emphatic and nice, but it's important, especially if you are on the 8th continent now on the internet, there are so many people. Stay agile and learn to improvise. 1995, I did my first digital agency. We did e-commerce project. After Java was released, we did some applets where you can already make combinations of fashion, and learned at that time that the team is everything. It's not about the ego. Put together technicians, creatives, stay lean, keep a startup mentality, and have fun on what you are doing. 1999, I started in Hamburg as creative director at Kabel New Media. It was a .com bubble time. Well, I started there when Kabel New Media get IPO, gets very, very big. That breakdown when we get an insolvency administration as new boss. which transformed us into one. You see with the change of the logos, all these agency types changed a lot in that time. All the structures changed every time. We saw some of the people. One of them is also on the panel today. And we did a lot of exciting stuff in that time for brands like Mini, BMW, and so on. Well, I don't go into details, we don't have time, but it was a little bit, see a lot of agency structures and, yeah, and see it from the ground up.
Thank you, Martin. This was a